Hi, this is Jeff, and I wanted to talk to you today about academic reading for college. In college, reading is very important, and in fact, you might find yourself doing a lot of it. It's often the first step, the required step before you can do any type of good studying. And so we're going to talk about this phase right here. In college, there are in general two different types of reading you'll find yourself doing. The first is casual reading that you've probably always known how to do. And then there's academic reading that is much more suited towards college and textbooks and things like that. Casual reading is where you're just reading for enjoyment at a relaxed pace, at your leisure. Usually, your favorite book is, if you're reading that, that's what you're doing casual reading. The problem is this will not work for college academics. It takes way too much time, and you're not reading something to ultimately be tested. Academic reading is much more suitable to college reading because you can cover a lot more ground. It's more related to things like extracting, where you're going through information. It allows you to cover a large volume of information quickly, and you're doing it with a mindset of, okay, I'm going to be tested on this. It's directly related to studying, which you can see in the diagram, because it lays this foundation of covering the basic information, whether it's in the text, required readings. And you'll find that some professors might vary on how much they go from the book or how many outside readings there are. You'll also find that some professors will go exactly from the book, and that you're responsible whether they discuss it or not. So, in general, expectations for reading for college, there's a rule of thumb to estimate how much work that college students can expect to do outside of class. And I think of it as the 1, 2, 3 rule. For every 1 hour in class, expect to spend 2 to 3 hours outside of class doing related work. And that includes reading. And that can also include things like studying and doing homework, anything that is independent and outside of the class that you have to do. The rule of thumb for college for reading is that the student is responsible for all assigned readings, whether the professor discusses it in class or not. And I've had a lot of students, and including myself, where the professor might meander during a lecture, and then when you go to take an exam, you can tell it's all right out of the book or out of something that was already given to you. Might even be in the syllabus, like in some secondary readings, that type of thing. For college, the reading in general, the type you can get and that you're all ultimately responsible for, would be the textbook, online articles, any secondary books that are listed in the syllabus, really anything referred to in the syllabus by the professor. Academic reading, to cover this large volume of potential reading that you have to do, what it means is to focus on the test worthy parts of reading. And those would be concepts, terms, definitions, conclusions, theories, outcomes. It depends on the class you're taking, methodology used, anything that's of substance to that particular class and relevant to that particular professor. Right, so how to do academic reading? Well, first, the goal of academic reading is to cut down the total volume of the information to what's test worthy. That's the primary goal. So, step one, when you get your, let's say, textbook in hand or whatever the reading is in hand, review a few pages ahead to give yourself a framework. Your memory really likes it if you give it an organized framework. It helps you to remember it. It helps with retention of the information. Use a highlighter, and that's perfect to flag the information. Again, it cuts down on the total volume. So flag all the concept terms, definitions, all the important things that are test worthy. Don't get bogged down in the total words. Just read through and catch the key stuff, and you'll get better at this as you practice. And flag it with the highlighter, because when you go back, then you've already cut that information down to what's important. Keep going through the reading and take a little break. Take a 5 minute break, but don't go do something that gets your memory engaged in something else. Like don't sit down and watch a movie. Keep your head clear. You want to keep your head in the reading mode. And repeat it. Read, take a break, read, take a break until you get through. Breaking up reading into those smaller sessions actually helps with retention. The same is true when you're studying. If you break it up, it helps with retention. Keep in mind to do a good job at this point with the highlighting, because this will play into your later studying. And I'm doing this video as related to two other videos, and I'll mention that at the end. And one of them does cover studying. Assigned readings must definitely include the text articles. or the textbook, the articles, anything else that is listed in the syllabus. I can't tell you how many times my students and even myself have had secondary books that you had to either purchase or hunt out at the library. And again, the rule of thumb is if it's in the syllabus, then you're responsible for it, whether the professor discusses it or not. Academic reading definitely gets better over time. As you practice, you'd be really, really surprised as to how good you can become at taking a textbook and extracting the key information in a short amount of time. And the same is true with online readings, the same is true with journal articles, but it's all practice, practice, practice when it comes to academic reading. This will allow you to cover a surprisingly large amount of information in a relatively short time, and especially versus casual reading, which just takes too long and it's not really suited for doing well. Keep in mind, academic reading is the foundation to scoring points on exams later. So just in summary, academic reading is much more like extracting versus reading casually, and it's meant to take the test-worthy information from any textbooks, articles, readings that you've been assigned. Highlighting while you're reading flags that information, so when you go back, you've already done the work, and you can go back and benefit from focusing just on the highlights. So it does cut down the total volume to make it much more manageable. Keep in mind that academic reading is not studying. Doing academic reading will not prepare you sufficiently for an exam. This is the first step, the foundational step to studying and test preparation. When it comes to this whole process of studying and getting ready, academic reading is a prerequisite. You have to do it first. If you try to just study, if you try to just test prep, you wind up with memories that aren't strong enough to really score you points. This is about scoring points. And so you have to take the time to lay the foundation. This is especially important if there's a chance the professor will draw questions from the book. You need to make sure you cover the book, cover the assigned readings, cover all the journal articles. They're all considered to be fair game for an exam. Test-worthy information is the meat, essentially, of what you're reading. The theorists, any theories they had, terms, concepts, definitions, anything that looks like a test question, that's test-worthy information. This kind of reading style or this approach is much more helpful for classes that have factual information. If you have a math class, you'll probably have less reading and more problem sets. That's kind of an applied class, and the exams will be applied knowledge. What I'm talking about it is true for those, but it fits much better for classes that are factual. When you finally get to it, the highlights will be something that you draw directly upon for studying. So again, do a good job, and you don't want to have to go back and do it twice. So keep in mind that when you're moving forward, the highlighting, being effective with that's going to be really important. For the related videos, like I said, this is the first one in the series on studying and then test preparation. All three of them are different parts of the same chain. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope to make more for you.